The rain hammered against the window like it was trying to break in. But inside our tiny Brooklyn walk-up, the air hung thick with something heavier than the storm outside. I watched Aubrey's chest rise and fall in the dim glow of the bedside lamp. Her breathing slow, and even now that sleep had finally claimed her after hours of pacing the creaky hardwood floors. In that suspended moment, with her dark curls splayed across the pillow like spilled ink, I did the unthinkable. I reached out and traced the curve of her jaw with my fingertip. Light as a whisper. Feeling the warmth of her skin for the first time without the excuse of accidental brushes in the kitchen. It was supposed to be nothing. Just a small move born from the ache that had been building in my chest for months. But when her eyes snapped open, wide and unguarded, the world tilted. "Addison," she murmured. Her voice rough from exhaustion. Not pulling away but leaning into the touch instead. And in that instant, the line we'd drawn between roommates blurred into something raw and irreversible. I froze. My hand hovering there. Heart pounding so loud I swore she could hear it over the downpour. Aubrey's gaze locked onto mine. Those hazel eyes searching. Flickering with confusion and something deeper. Like recognition of a secret we'd both been keeping. The room felt smaller. The walls closing in with the scent of her lavender shampoo and the faint vanilla from the candle we'd blown out earlier. We'd shared this space for a year now. Splitting rent on this third-floor apartment with its exposed brick and mismatched furniture scavenged from stoop sales. But tonight, after her latest breakup had left her unraveling thread by thread, the boundaries we'd built felt as fragile as the thunder rumbling distant in the sky. She shifted slightly, propping herself up on one elbow, the sheet slipping down to reveal the strap of her tank top clinging to her shoulder. "What are you doing?" she asked. Not accusatory, but soft, almost hopeful. Her lips parting as if tasting the words before they escaped. I pulled my hand back, suddenly aware of the dampness of my own palms. The way my pulse echoed in my ears. "I don't know," I admitted, my voice barely above the rain's patter. "You looked peaceful." For once. It was a lie. Or half of one. She'd looked beautiful. Vulnerable in a way that twisted something inside me. A longing I'd buried under late-night study sessions and shared bottles of cheap wine. Aubrey let out a breath. Not quite a sigh. More like a release. And sank back against the pillows. Her fingers brushed mine as she adjusted the blanket. A deliberate graze that sent sparks up my arm. We'd danced around this before. In the quiet hours when the city outside hushed, her venting about her ex. The way she'd linger too long when handing me a mug of coffee. The accidental lock of eyes across the breakfast table that stretched into seconds. But tonight, with the storm mirroring the chaos in her heart, it all surfaced. "He's gone, Addie," she said, using the nickname that always made my stomach flip. "And it hurts like hell. But it's not just him. It's me. Figuring out who I even am without all this noise." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat, because I knew that ache too well. At 25, I was slinging espresso at a hipster cafe in Williamsburg by day, scribbling half-formed poems in my notebook by night, chasing a dream of publication that felt as elusive as stability. Aubrey, with her graphic design gigs that paid the bills but left her soul starving, understood that grind. We'd bonded over it. Over takeout tie on the fire escape watching fireflies wink against the skyline. Over playlists of indie folk that wrapped around us like shared secrets. But lately, those moments had carried an undercurrent. A tension that hummed like the subway beneath our feet. "Come here," she said suddenly, patting the space beside her on the bed. It wasn't an invitation to the couch or the kitchen table, it was this bed. Her bed. The one I'd helped assemble from IKEA, instructions scattered like confetti on the floor. I hesitated. The rational part of me screaming to retreat to my own room down the hall. But my body betrayed me, sliding under the covers before I could talk myself out of it. The mattress dipped under my weight. And there we were. Side by side. The space between us shrinking to inches charged with electricity. We lay there in silence for what felt like eternity. The rain a steady backdrop to our breathing syncing up without effort. Her hand found mine under the sheet. Fingers intertwining loosely. Tentatively. Like testing the weight of a fragile thing. "I've been thinking," she whispered. Her thumb tracing slow circles on my skin. "About how you're the only one who really sees me. Not the versions I show the world. But this." She gestured vaguely at herself. At the tear-streaked face she'd hidden earlier behind forced smiles. My chest tightened. Emotions swirling in a storm of my own, fear of ruining what we had. Elation at the possibility of more. Guilt for feeling this way while she mourned. Aubrey. Words failed. So I turned toward her. Our faces close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in her eyes. The faint scar on her chin from a childhood bike crash she'd laughed about once over margaritas. In that proximity, the pull was magnetic. And before I could second guess, I closed the gap, pressing my lips to hers in a kiss that started soft, exploratory, then deepened with the urgency we'd both been holding back. She responded immediately, her free hand cupping the back of my neck, pulling me closer as if afraid I'd vanish. It was messy, tasting of salt from her earlier tears and the sweetness of unspoken confessions. But it felt like coming home. When we broke apart, gasping, her forehead rested against mine. That was, she trailed off, a small laugh bubbling up. Shaky but real. Yeah, I echoed, my voice thick. That was everything. We didn't speak after that. Just held each other as the storm raged on. Bodies fitting together like puzzle pieces we'd ignored for too long. Sleep came eventually, tangled in sheets and limbs. But morning brought clarity. Or at least the illusion of it. Sunlight sliced through the blinds, painting stripes across the floor. And I woke to the smell of brewing coffee. Aubrey was already up, humming softly in the kitchen, her hair tied back in a messy bun. She turned as I patted in barefoot, wearing her oversized hoodie that swallowed me whole, and handed me a mug with a shy smile. "Sleep okay?" she asked, her cheeks flushing under my gaze. "Better than okay." I took a sip, the bitterness grounding me. We moved around each other with new awareness, shoulders brushing, eyes lingering. But as we sat at the wobbly table, scrolling through her latest design mock-ups on her laptop, the weight of the night settled. "What now?" I ventured, setting the mug down with a soft clink. She closed the screen, leaning back with a sigh that carried the depth of her uncertainties. "I don't know. Last night. It felt right. But I'm a mess. Addie. Fresh off a breakup with a guy who never got me. And now this. Us." Her voice wavered, vulnerability cracking through the bravado she wore like armor. I reached across, covering her hand with mine. "You're not a mess. You're human. And whatever this is, we figure it out together. No rush." It was my turn to steady her, to offer the anchor she'd been for me through my own doubts about my writing, about fitting into this city that chewed up dreams and spat out survivors. The day unfolded lazily, a rarity in our hustle. We wandered into the neighborhood, stopping at the farmer's market where vendors hawked heirloom tomatoes and artisanal cheeses. Aubrey haggled over a bunch of kale with her trademark grin, the one that crinkled her eyes. And I snapped a photo on my phone, capturing the joy that had been dimmed lately. Later, we picnicked in Prospect Park, sprawled on a blanket amid dog walkers and joggers, sharing slices of crusty bread and stories from our pasts. She told me about growing up in a sprawling family in Queens, the middle child lost in the shuffle, finding solace in sketchbooks that let her build worlds where she mattered. I shared fragments of my own childhood in a sleepy Ohio town, where poetry was my escape from the monotony, from parents who loved fiercely but understood little. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the lake, she leaned her head on my shoulder. "I like this," she murmured. "Just being with you." "Me too." But beneath the warmth, a flicker of doubt stirred. Was this rebound for her? A balm for the wound of her ex? Or something real, forged in the quiet spaces we'd carved out? That evening, as we cooked pasta in our minuscule kitchen, elbows bumping in the steam, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, face tightening. "It's him," she said flatly, silencing the call. The ex? Persistent as ever, texting apologies laced with manipulation. I watched her delete the messages, jaw set. But the interruption lingered like smoke. We ate on the couch, forks clinking against bowls, the TV murmuring some forgotten sitcom. Halfway through, she set her plate aside, turning to me with eyes shadowed. "I need to be honest. Part of me still wonders if I'm just replacing one hurt with another." The words landed heavy, stirring the emotions I'd pushed down. I nodded, throat tight. "I get it. But this isn't replacement. It's different. You're different with me." We talked then, really talked. Peeling back layers, her fears of repeating patterns. My terror of unrequited longing turning to resentment. It wasn't easy, voices rose. Then softened. Pauses filled with the weight of what-ifs. By the time we cleared the dishes, exhaustion mingled with resolve. And we retreated to her room again. This time with intention. Lying face to face. Breaths mingling. She traced my cheek. "Stay," she whispered. And I did. Our kisses slower now. Exploratory. Mapping the terrain of trust. Hands wandered with permission. Eliciting gasps and sighs that echoed the city's distant hum. It was intimate. Not rushed. Each touch a question answered in kind. Afterward. Curled against her. I felt the dao-dong of her heartbeat. Steady in mine. But life didn't pause for revelations. The next week blurred into routine laced with novelty, stolen kisses over morning coffee. Her fingers lingering on my waist as I reached for a high shelf. Work pulled us in opposite directions, Aubrey to freelance meetings in Soho cafes. Me to the grind of steaming milk and memorizing orders. Yet evenings brought us back. To shared laughter over burnt toast or deep dives into her sketches inspired by our park days. One Friday, she surprised me with tickets to a poetry reading in the village. Her way of dipping into my world. The venue was a dimly lit basement. Air thick with incense and anticipation. As poets took the stage, spilling verses on love and loss, I felt her hand squeeze mine under the table. Her thumb stroking rhythmically. When my turn came, nerves jangling, I read a piece I'd written months ago. Veiled words about unspoken desires that now rang true. The applause was polite. But her eyes, shining with pride, made it feel like thunder. Afterward, walking arm in arm through Washington Square Arch, street musicians strumming under lamplight, she stopped me. "That was beautiful? Addie. You. Us. It's all starting to feel like a story worth telling." We kissed there. Unhurried. The world fading to the taste of her and the promise of night. Yet shadows crept in. Her ex escalated. Showing up at her studio unannounced. Voice raised in the lobby until security intervened. She came home shaken. Collapsing onto the bed with a sigh that wrenched my heart. "He said I'm confused. That this, us, is just a phase." Rage simmered in me. But I held her instead. Rocking gently as tears soaked my shirt. "You're not confused," I said firmly. Tilting her chin up. "You're brave. Choosing yourself. Choosing this." We spent the night fortifying walls, blocking numbers. Drafting a cease and desist email to her freelance network. By dawn, resolve hardened into something unbreakable. The following month tested us further. My cafe cut hours. Bills loomed. And a submission rejection landed like a gut punch. Aubrey found me staring at the email. Coffee gone cold. Without a word, she pulled me into her lap on the couch. Humming a lullaby from her childhood until the sting eased. "We'll make it," she promised. Her voice a lifeline. Together. In return, I rallied for her when a big client bailed. Dragging her to Coney Island for hot dogs and Ferris wheel rides. The ocean breeze whipping laughter from us. At the top, city lights sprawling below. She turned to me. Eyes fierce. "I love you, Addison. Not as a roommate. Not as a friend. As you." The words hung. Profound. Pulling a sob from me. "I love you too, Aubrey." Half for longer than I admitted. We clung there. The world vast and small all at once. Emotions cresting in waves of joy and relief. Summer deepened. Our bond weaving tighter. We road tripped to the Hudson Valley. Hiking trails where wildflowers nodded in approval. Picnicking by streams that babbled secrets. One evening, campfire crackling, she unveiled a design, a logo for my poetry chapbook. Elegant lines evoking vulnerability and strength. "Your words deserve this," she said. And I kissed her senseless. Gratitude blooming into passion under the stars. Back in Brooklyn. Challenges persisted, family calls probing her roommate situation, my parents' bewilderment at my city phase. But we faced them hand in hand. Her introducing me as her partner over video. My voice steady as I shared snippets of our life. Acceptance came in fits. Doubts in whispers. But love anchored us. As autumn leaves turned, painting the streets gold, we marked 6 months with a quiet dinner at our favorite Italian spot in Carroll Gardens. Candles flickering on checkered tablecloths. Midway through tiramisu, Aubrey slid a small box across the table, not a ring, but a keychain etched with intertwined initials. To all the doors we opened together, she toasted. Clinking glasses. I laughed through tears. The gesture profound in its simplicity. Later, walking home, hand in hers, I reflected on that rainy night. The small move that shifted everything. It hadn't been easy, emotions had dialed on like tides, pulling us under and lifting us high. Sighs had marked the hard days, pauses the tender ones. But in the depth of it, we'd found not just romance, but humanity, the messy, beautiful work of loving wholly. Now, as we climbed the stairs to our apartment, her head on my shoulder, I knew this was our story, two women, flawed and fierce, building a life from whispers and touches. And in the quiet that followed, the afterglow lingered, a reminder that sometimes, the smallest moves rewrite destinies. The chill of early November seeped through the cracks in our window frames. But inside, the apartment hummed with the warmth of simmering soup on the stove. Aubrey stirred the pot, her movements rhythmic, almost meditative, while I chopped carrots at the counter. The knife's steady thwack a counterpoint to the jazz crooning from the old record player we'd salvaged from a garage sale. It had been 3 months since that keychain dinner, and our rhythm felt solid, like the bass line underscoring the melody of our days. Yet beneath it, a subtle undercurrent tugged, whispers of future plans that neither of us had voiced fully. She glanced over, catching my eye with a smile that crinkled the corners of her mouth. "You're quiet tonight," she observed, tasting the broth from a wooden spoon, her tongue darting out to catch a stray drop. I shrugged, setting the knife down, the weight of unspoken words pressing on my chest. "Just thinking about the reading next week. What if it's another flop?" My chapbook launch loomed, a milestone I'd chased for years. But now it carried the pressure of sharing our world with strangers. Aubrey wiped her hands on a dish towel, crossing the small space to wrap her arms around me from behind, chin resting on my shoulder. Her breath was warm against my neck, carrying the faint spice of cumin. "It won't be. Your words. They touch people. Addie. They touched me first." She pressed a kiss to my temple, lingering, and I leaned into her, letting the solidity of her body ground me. These moments, simple and sustaining, were the glue holding us through the grind. We ate at the table, bowls steaming, conversation meandering from her latest client pitch, a non-profit poster series on queer youth, to my coworker drama at the cafe, the one who kept accidentally misgendering regulars. Laughter bubbled up, easing the tension, but as we cleared plates, her expression shifted, thoughtful. "Hey, can we talk about something?" she asked, drawing a glass with deliberate slowness. My stomach nodded, but I nodded, settling onto the couch with her. The cushions sagged familiarly under us, a nest we'd made our own with throw pillows and tangled afghans. She tucked her legs beneath her, facing me fully. "Thanksgiving's coming up. My family's doing the whole thing in Queens, turkey, aunts arguing over pie recipes. I want you there. As my partner. No more tiptoeing." The invitation hung between us, heavy with implication. I'd met her siblings in passing. Casual brunches where I'd been the roommate, but this was different. A declaration. Emotions swirled, excitement at the inclusion, fear of scrutiny from a family still adjusting to her coming out last spring. "Are you sure?" I asked, voice soft. "I don't want to make it weird." She took my hand, lacing our fingers. "It'll be weird anyway, it's my family. But you're part of this now. Part of me." Her eyes held mine, steady, and the dao-dong in my chest settled into resolve. We planned outfits, rehearsed deflections for prying questions, turning potential minefield into adventure. The days leading up blurred, her buried in revisions, me double-shifting to cover a sick colleague, stealing moments in the hallway with quick kisses that tasted of hurried longing. One evening, rain slicking the streets again, she came home soaked, dropping her bag with a thud. "Rough day," she muttered, peeling off her jacket, water pooling at her feet. I drew her a bath, lighting candles that cast flickering shadows on the tiles, the steam rising like unspoken comforts. As she sank in, sighs escaping her lips, I knelt beside the tub, washing her hair with gentle fingers, massaging suds into her scalp. "Tell me," I prompted, And she did, client feedback that nitpicked her vision. Echoes of her ex's criticisms creeping in. Vulnerability poured out. And I listened, offering affirmations like lifelines, until her body relaxed. Tension melting away. That night, we made love slowly. Bodies attuned in the dark. Each caress a reaffirmation. Afterward, tangled and sated, she whispered against my skin. You make the hard parts bearable. Sleep claimed us deeply. Dreams weaving our futures into tapestries of shared sunrises. Thanksgiving dawned crisp. Leaves crunching under tires as we drove the familiar route to Queens. Aubrey's hand rested on my thigh. A steady anchor against the butterflies rioting in my gut. The house was chaos incarnate, laughter booming from the living room. The sizzle of sausage in the kitchen. Her mother's hug enveloping me like a warm fog. So you're the one keeping my girl fed, she teased, pressing a plate of empanadas into my hands. Her eyes twinkling with genuine welcome. The meal unfolded in a whirlwind, uncles debating politics. Cousins chasing toddlers. Plates passed hand to hand. Aubrey's father, quiet but observant, raised a glass midway through. To family? Old and new, he said, glancing at me with a nod that spoke volumes. Relief washed over me, mingled with a swell of belonging. Later, in the backyard under string lights, Aubrey pulled me aside. Her breath visible in the chill. See? Not so bad. We kissed. Brief but fervent. The taste of pumpkin pie on her lips. Driving home, stuffed and serene, I broached my own hurdle. My folks want us for Christmas. Ohio. Snow and all. She squeezed my hand, grinning. Road trip? I'm in. Excitement sparked. Visions of bundled walks and her meeting my quirky aunts dancing in my mind. Winter deepened. Our lives a tapestry of milestones. My launch was a triumph, friends packing the bookstore. Her design turning heads. Words flowing from my lips like confessions. She stood in the front row, eyes misty. And afterward, in the alley behind, we celebrated with pressed bodies against brick. The city's pulse matching ours. But not all was seamless. A freelance drought hit Aubrey hard. Rejections piling like snowdrifts. She withdrew, sketching late into nights. Sighs punctuating the silence. One evening, finding her hunched over the table, pencils scattered, I slid a mug of tea beside her. Talk to me, I urged. And she did. Frustration spilling, imposter syndrome gnawing. Fears of not measuring up. I pulled her up, dancing her around the living room to a slow record. Body swaying until laughter broke through. You're enough, I murmured into her hair. More than. We collapsed onto the rug, staring at the ceiling, hands linked. The pause natural. Restorative. Holiday lights twinkled as we packed for Ohio. The car loaded with gifts and playlists. The drive was epic, stopping at diners for greasy spoons. Belting carols off-key. Her head on my lap as I navigated icy roads. My parents' farm greeted us with open arms. Though initial awkwardness lingered, my father's gruff questions. Mother's hovering curiosity. Aubrey charmed them effortlessly. Helping in the kitchen. Debating books with Dad by the fire. On Christmas Eve, snow blanketing the fields, we bundled up for a walk. Boots crunching through drifts. At the old swing by the creek, she stopped, breath clouding. This place shaped you. I see it in your poems, the quiet strength. We swung gently, side by side, sharing dreams, a joint studio space. Travel to coasts unknown. New Year's brought reflection. Back in Brooklyn, we hosted a small party, friends toasting with champagne. Fireworks bursting over the river. As midnight struck, her kiss was a vow. Deep and promising. To us, she breathed. And I echoed it. Heart full. Spring unfurled. Renewal in every bud. Aubrey landed a contract with a queer arts collective. Her designs blooming on billboards. I quit the cafe for a part-time gig at a literary nonprofit. Words finally paying in small ways. Weekends found us in the Hamptons. Borrowed cottage by the sea. Waves crashing as we wrote, her sketching seascapes. Me penning odes to salt-kissed skin. One afternoon, lounging on the porch, she set her pad aside. What if we made it official? Leased this place longer term. Built something permanent. The proposal, casual yet profound, stirred a whirlwind, joy at commitment. A flicker of terror at vulnerability's edge. I straddled her lap. Hands framing her face. Yes. To all of it. Our lovemaking was fervent. Bodies arching under the sun. Cries swallowed by the tide. Yet growth demanded confrontation. Her family visit unearthed old wounds, her mother's offhand comment about settling down properly, stirring doubts. Aubrey lashed out later. Voice cracking over the phone. I found her on the fire escape. Knees to chest. Tears freezing on lashes. Holding her. I listened as pain poured, generational expectations clashing with her truth. I just want them to see us, she sobbed. We talked through dawn. Forging a letter together, honest. Unyielding, mailed with love's weight. Summer solstice marked a year since that rainy night. We celebrated in Central Park. Blanket spread under ancient oaks. Basket brimming with strawberries and wine. As dusk fell. Fireflies igniting. She pulled a journal from the bag, pages filled with our story. Illustrated in her hand. Our first chapter, she said. Voice thick. Flipping through. Emotions crested, sketches of our first kiss. Poems I'd whispered. Moments etched in ink and line. It's perfect, I choked. Pulling her close. We made love there. Hidden in twilight. Bodies merging with the earth's pulse. As leaves turned once more. We signed the lease extension. Walls echoing with plans. Doubts lingered. Sighs marked the efforts. But love's depth sustained. In quiet pauses. We'd trace each other's scars. Building resilience from fragility. One evening. Rain pattering familiarly. Aubrey asleep beside me. I traced her jaw again, that small move. Evolved. No tilt now, just peace. Our story. Humanistic in its imperfections. Whispered of endurance, two souls. Intertwined. Navigating the beautiful chaos of us. Autumn's palette deepened around our Brooklyn haven. Golds and crimsons carpeting the sidewalks as we navigated the rhythm of commitment. The extended lease felt like a milestone. A tangible thread weaving our lives tighter. But with it came the subtle shifts of cohabitation amplified, laundry piling in corners. Debates over thermostat settings that masked deeper insecurities. Aubrey's success with the arts collective burgeoned. Late nights at the studio leaving her returning with charcoal-smudged cheeks and eyes bright with creation. While my nonprofit role bloomed into workshops where I guided aspiring writers through their vulnerabilities. Mirroring the work we did at home. One crisp Saturday. We escaped to the Catskills for a weekend reset. The drive winding through hills ablaze with foliage. The cabin was rustic. Wood-paneled with a stone fireplace that crackled invitingly as we unpacked. Remember our first road trip? Aubrey asked. Stacking logs. Her sweater sleeves rolled up. Revealing the tattoo of a blooming lotus she'd gotten last spring, a symbol of rising we'd chosen together. I smiled. Uncorking wine by the window. Watching leaves spiral down. How could I forget? You sang every Taylor Swift song off-key. Laughter filled the space. Easing the undercurrent of fatigue we'd carried from the city. That night? After a hike that left us breathless and mud-splashed. We cooked venison stew over the fire. Bodies close on the braided rug. Feeding each other bites between kisses that grew heated. Urgent. In the morning light. Fog clinging to the valleys. She woke me with coffee and a question that hung soft in the air. What do you see for us? 5 years from now? Her voice was tentative. Fingers toying with the hem of the quilt. Hazel eyes searching mine for truths unspoken. I propped on an elbow. Considering the vista beyond, endless peaks mirroring possibilities. A place of our own? Maybe upstate. Your designs in galleries. My book on shelves. Us. Still like this, tangled. Creating. The vision stirred a warmth in my chest. But laced with the dao-dong of realism, finances precarious. Dreams deferred. She nodded. Pulling me down for a kiss that sealed the dream. Slow and affirming. Bodies awakening to the dawn's promise. Back in the city. Reality intruded. My workshop group hit a snag, a young poet grappling with rejection. Her story echoing my past so sharply it reopened old wounds. I vented to Aubrey over takeout falafel on the couch. Her listening ear a balm. You're helping her because you know that pain, she said. Wiping tahini from my chin with her thumb. The gesture intimate. Grounding. That's your gift. Her own pressures mounted, a gallery show deadline looming. Collaborators flaking. Leaving her to shoulder the load. I found her one midnight. hunched at the drafting table. Sighs punctuating frustrated eraser strokes. Without words, I brewed chamomile, massaging her shoulders until knots yielded. Then led her to bed where touch spoke louder, hands exploring with reverence, drawing gasps that dissolved tension into surrender. Thanksgiving circled back. This time us hosting a potluck with friends. Our apartment bursting with queer chosen family, laughter over turkey mishaps. Toasts to resilience. Aubrey's sister arrived with her wife. Their easy affection a mirror for us. And as we carved pie in the kitchen, she leaned in. Proud of you, she whispered. Her pride a quiet fire warming me through. Winter's grip tightened. Holidays a whirlwind. We split time, her queen's feast. My Ohio chill, each blending families further. In the snow-dusted farmhouse, Aubrey shoveled paths with Dad. Their banter building bridges. While Mom and I baked, sharing recipes laced with life advice. She looks at you like you're her world, Mom confided over rolling pins. Her approval a gift unwrapped slowly. New Year's in Times Square was madness we'd sworn off. Opting instead for rooftop champagne with neighbors. Fireworks painting the sky as we clung. Her lips on mine at the stroke of 12. Another year with you, she murmured. And the vow settled deep. Spring brought renewal. Cherry blossoms dusting the streets like confetti. Aubrey's show opened to acclaim, murals of intertwined figures. Evoking our own entwinement. Critics praising the emotional depth. Standing in the crowd. Champagne flute in hand. I watched her glow under lights. Heart swelling with a love fierce and proud. Later. In the emptying gallery. We danced to phantom music. Bodies pressed. The echo of applause fading to our breaths. My first full collection sold modestly. Enough for a signing tour, readings in Chicago. San Francisco. She came to the launch. Her presence a talisman. And on stage, dedicating the book to the woman who redraws my lines, voices hushed. Emotions cresting in applause that felt like embrace. Yet mid-tour, distance tested us. Phone calls crackled with longing. Her voice tinny through speakers. Miss your laugh in the morning, she'd say. And I'd ache. Scribbling letters mailed like lifelines, poems of empty beds. Skin memories. One night in a Portland motel. Insomnia gnawing. I confessed fears, what if the road pulls me away too far? Her reply. Videolit face soft. Steadied me. It won't. We're rooted. Addie. Deeper than miles. The pause that followed. Heavy with trust. Bridged the gap. Summer scorched the city. Air conditioners humming lullabies. We splurged on a week in Provincetown. Dunes and lighthouses a queer haven. Days blurred into beach reads and sunset sails. Nights into lovemaking salty with sea air. Her fingers tracing constellations on my back. One evening. Bonfire with locals. She recited a poem she'd written, verses of us. Fierce and tender, drawing cheers that mirrored my inner roar. Back home. A curveball landed, her collective offered a residency in LA. 6 months of immersion. Excitement warred with dread, opportunity gleamed. But uprooting us? We walked the bridge at dusk. Manhattan skyline glittering. Words tumbling. Go, I urged finally. Throat tight. This is your bloom. I'll visit. Bridge the coast. Tears welled. But resolve hardened. Together. Even apart, she agreed. Our kiss sealing the pact. Bittersweet. Fall-packed boxes. Emotions dowdong like leaves in wind. Airport goodbyes were wrenching, hugs lingering. Promises whispered. Alone. The apartment echoed. Sighs filling silences. But letters and calls wove threads across states, her sketches of palm trees infused with Brooklyn grit. My poems of phantom touches. Mid-residency. She flew me out for a weekend. Hollywood Hills alive with stars. We hiked Runyon. Sweat slicked and laughing. Then dined on tacos. Her hand in mine under string lights. This could be us, she mused. Gesturing to the sprawl. Someday. The idea took root. Seeds of relocation stirring. But deeper talks revealed layers, her fear of losing our foundation. My unease at change's velocity. We build where love leads, I said. And in bed that night. Bodies reaffirming. We charted courses flexible as desire. Her return heralded winter. Airport reunion a crush of limbs and kisses. Homecoming soup steaming as we debriefed. The residency had stretched her. Colors bolder in her work. Confidence etched in her stride. Miss this, she breathed, nuzzling my neck. And we tumbled into celebration. Touches fervent. Sighs of reunion. As snow fell anew. We dreamed aloud, a joint move west? Or roots deepening here? Pauses grew thoughtful. Decisions unhurried. One night. Fire escape perch. City lights below. She turned to me. Whatever path. It's ours. Emotions settled. Love's depth a constant amid flux. That small move years ago had cascaded into this, lives intertwined. Humanistic in their evolution. Leaving echoes of grace in every step. Winter's hush blanketed Brooklyn. Snow muffling the city's perpetual hum. As Aubrey and I settled into the post-residency glow. Her sketches from LA adorned our walls, vibrant abstracts blending coastlines with urban veins. Each stroke a testament to growth earned through distance. My tour had wrapped with a quiet triumph. A handful of readings that sparked connections. But home, with her, was the true anchor. We spent evenings curating a shared journal. Alternating pages, her illustrations framing my verses. A living archive of us. One frosty morning, bundled against the bite, we volunteered at a local shelter. Serving hot cocoa to those huddled against the cold. Aubrey's warmth drew stories from the unhoused, a veteran sketching memories on napkins. A trans teen sharing poetry raw with hope. This, she said later. Steaming mugs in hand. This is why we create. To see. To hold space. Her words resonated. Stirring my own commitment to workshops that now included outreach. Voices long silenced finding paper. Spring tiptoed in. Parks bursting with tulips. Our plans crystallizing. The LA residency had ignited a spark, a collaborative project. Her designs visualizing queer narratives for my readings. We pitched it to her collective. Nerves jangling over video calls. But acceptance came swift. Funding trickling for a pilot. Exhilaration buzzed, this was synergy. Our worlds merging in ink and word. Yet joy shadowed with introspection. Aubrey's family dynamic simmered, her mother's visits laced with subtle probes about future plans, code for marriage. Kids. Norms we'd sidestepped. One afternoon. Post-brunch tension. She paced the living room. Voice edged. Why can't she just celebrate us as we are? Sighs punctuated her rant. And I pulled her down. Legs entwined on the floor. Because change scares her, I offered. Stroking her hair. Like it did us once. We unpacked it gently. Letters evolving into open dialogues. Bridges mending with patience. Her response. Weeks later, a call filled with laughter. Invitations unqualified, marked healing's quiet victory. Summer hummed with the project's momentum. We retreated to a writer's colony in the Berkshires. Cabin shared amid rolling greens. Days dissolved into creation, her at the easel capturing light through leaves. Me at the desk channeling rhythms of rain. Evenings brought readings by the lake. Fireflies witnesses as we shared drafts. Feedback tender. Laced with kisses that deepened into nights of exploration, bodies mapping familiar terrains with renewed wonder. Gasps echoing Loon's calls. A breakthrough came mid-stay, a joint piece. My poem illustrated in her fluid lines. Evoking a storm-tossed sea of emotions resolved in calm harbors. It's us, she whispered. Pinning it to the wall. And tears pricked. Pride swelling for the artistry born of love. Fall's harvest brought the pilot launch, a pop-up exhibit in Chelsea. Galleries humming with patrons. Nerves thrummed as we unveiled panels, verses etched beside visuals pulsing with humanity, tales of first loves. Losses reclaimed. Identities fluid as watercolors. Aubrey's speech. Voice steady. Wove gratitude for our partnership, mine followed. Crediting her vision as muse. Applause washed over. But her hand in mine, squeezing, was the true ovation. Post-event high. We wandered the High Line. Rails cool under palms. Cityscape unfolding. What next, she mused. Leaning on the railing. Wind tousling her curls. The question. Open-ended. Invited dreams, expansion to books. Tours blending art and word. But beneath. A personal undercurrent stirred, talk of family. Perhaps of our own making. Through choice. Winter solstice neared. Holidays a mosaic. We hosted a fusion feast, her Latina roots and tamales. My Midwestern and apple crisp, families mingling in video toasts. Distances dissolved in cheers. Alone after. By the tree twinkling with ornaments we'd crafted. She knelt. Box small in hand. Not proposal. But a locket, inside. Mini portraits of us. Etched tiny. To carry each other, she said. Fastening it around my neck. Emotion choked me. A sob escaping as I kissed her. Slow. Profound. Always. The new year dawned with ambition. My collection's sequel took shape. Chapters infused with our travels, her solo show booked for spring. Themes of entanglement drawing from our bond. But balance demanded vigilance, date nights enforced amid deadlines. Walks in Greenwood Cemetery where gravestones whispered impermanence. Grounding us in presence. A hiccup arose in March, funding cuts to my nonprofit. Layoffs looming. Panic clawed as I confessed over dawn coffee. Voice wavering. Aubrey listened. Then rose. Pulling files from her desk. Contingencies, she revealed, savings skimmed. Freelance leads lined up. We weather this. Her pragmatism, paired with hugs that lingered, steadied the storm. In reciprocity, when her show prep unearthed self-doubt, comparisons to peers gnawing, she crumbled mid-mock-up. Brushes clattering. I swept in, clearing space for tea and truths. Your art breathes because it's yours. Ours. We salvaged the night with a bubble bath. Bubbles popping like doubts. Bodies soothing in steam-kissed caresses. Summer sailed us to Iceland. Grant-funded whimsy, geysers erupting like joy. Northern lights draping auroras over midnight hikes. Under their glow, we vowed expansions, not just career, but heart, openness to fostering. Should paths align, expanding family beyond blood. The idea, nascent, bloomed in talks by geothermal pools. Waters warm as resolve. Fall's exhibit circuit beckoned. Our collaboration touring Midwest galleries. In a Minneapolis loft. Diverse crowds engaged, questions probing the intimacy behind the work. It's love's labor, Aubrey answered once. Glancing at me. And the room hushed. Moved by authenticity. Back east. Winter whispered permanence. Over mulled wine on New Year's. We charted a bold stroke, purchasing a co-op in Bed-Stuy. Brownstone charm with a garden plot for her herbs. Nook for my desk. The leap thrilled and terrified. Paperwork a gauntlet of finances stretched thin. Closing day. Keys in hand. We danced empty rooms to phantom symphonies. Echoes promising futures. That night? First sleep on bare mattress. Bodies close. She traced my palm. Home. Spring unpacked us. Walls filling with memories, photos from Iceland pinned beside childhood drawings. My rehiring at a sister org stabilized. Her commissions flowing. Evenings bloomed in the garden. Dirt under nails. Growth mirroring ours. One twilight. Kneeling amid seedlings. She paused. Soil-streaked face earnest. Adopt a dog? Start small. Laughter bubbled. Agreement swift, weeks later. Luna, a scruffy mutt with soulful eyes, bounded in. Tail wagging chaos into order. Luna's antics punctuated days, shredded socks. Park romps where we'd collapse giggling. Leashes tangled like our early days. She grounded us. Walks fostering pauses for wonder, sunsets bleeding pink. Her head on my knee as Aubrey sketched. A year post-move. Anniversary rain echoed our origin. We recreated the night, pasta steaming. Wine poured. Bed waiting. As thunder rolled. Her touch reignited sparks. Love making a symphony of sighs and whispers. Climaxing in union profound. After. Limbs entwined. Luna snoring at foot. I reflected. That small move had cascaded into empires, of art. Home. Heart. Emotions had dao-dong. Pauses healed. But love's humanism endured, flawed. Fierce. Forever echoing grace.